I attempted to live on only Huel Black for an entire month, but unfortunately, I had to stop the challenge for a reason I didn't expect.
Oh, hi, Mark.
What's up, Freccero fam? Welcome back to my channel where I like to experience everything that life has to offer. A while ago, I did a challenge where I lived on only Huel for an entire month. And I gotta be honest, I loved it. I spent only, I think, $200 that entire month. I had a lot more energy. I didn't have to worry about cooking, cleaning, going out and buying groceries, and a lot more. And since that challenge, I got a lot of people saying, hey, Mark, you did this with Huel White. What about Huel Black? At the time, when I did that challenge, Huel Black had not existed yet. In case you didn't know, one, Huel is basically powdered food, to word it simply. And two, the difference between Huel White and Huel Black is Huel Black has less carbs and more protein. So for me, being big into health and fitness, I like the formula of Huel Black more than the formula of Huel White. So for this month, my plan was to live on only Huel Black, but unfortunately, I had to stop the challenge and I'm now eating regular food for a reason I really didn't expect. Now, one thing I want to say right in the beginning of this video is one, I love Huel. I buy it all the time. This is not sponsored by Huel. I literally take my own money, go and buy Huel, and I've been buying Huel for, I think, at least the exact time of this video, almost 7 years now. Like, I think I first had it in 2017, and I've been buying it ever since. And I do genuinely love Huel, but this is something I didn't expect. To give you a short answer and then a long answer, because I'm really going to go in depth on this video about what it was like to live on Huel and Huel Black and everything. The main reason why was actually related to health and fitness and hypertrophy. And in case you didn't know, hypertrophy is a technical term for building muscle and gaining muscle mass, which is something I'm going to talk about in detail on this video about, is Huel good for bulking up? I know I've gotten a lot of questions about that. Short answer, yes. Huel's actually amazing for bulking up, but not if you're only living on it. So let me take a step back and talk about my initial idea for this challenge. Like I said, I did this challenge a bit ago with Huel White, or the original formula of Huel. That challenge went great, right? Like I said, I had more energy throughout the day, I noticed. Of course, I didn't have to worry about buying food, cooking, cleaning, like I mentioned earlier. There's some kind of odd mental stress that was removed. And like I said, since that challenge, I got a lot of questions about doing this with Huel Black. So my initial guidelines for this challenge was to live on, like I said, only Huel. Right now, I am doing dry January, and I've kind of decided for myself every year, I'm going to start off the year with a month of being dry, no alcohol, and being super healthy, focusing on mental health, physical health, and more. And so for this year, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go dry. I'm going to do a bunch of other challenges like cold showers, Wim Hof breathing. But a big one is I'm going to live on only Huel Black and document my results. So my overall guidelines, basically, my rules were one, I can only have Huel Black. And two, kind of a secondary one, I did also allow Huel Daily Greens. And I figured, why not? The Huel Daily Greens have gotten a lot of attention as well. I think it's a phenomenal product. So I figured, hey, if I'm really only having Huel Black for an entire month, that's all I'm consuming, why not add Huel Daily Greens on top of that? And I do want to talk about a few different points on this video about what it's like to live on Huel Black in general, because what's weird, and this was very odd, something I'm going to talk about more in detail later in this video. I lived on only Huel for a month years ago. In addition, you know, I've been to Austin, Texas a couple times. In case you didn't know, I've mentioned this here and there, but when I've lived in Austin for a month, doing things like South by Southwest and whatnot, I live on 90% Huel Black. And it's funny that my diet, maybe not the best, being honest, is I'll have Huel Black at my Airbnb, so I don't have to go out buy groceries and everything. And then when I go out, I get barbecue. Kind of an odd yin and yang of Huel Black and barbecue. I'm pretty sure that's not the best, like, diet for a month. And I try to include vegetables and healthier stuff. But also, I am going out drinking, so I feel like my food groups when I was in Austin were Huel Black, alcohol, and barbecue. So definitely not the best for you. And what's weird is I have lived on primarily Huel Black before. With that being said, there are a few points I want to bring up. I wrote these down about what it's like to live on Huel Black or primarily Huel Black. And then I'm going to get into why I had to stop this challenge in more detail. Now, first off, I want to talk about kind of getting used to it. I will say transitioning from, let's say, eating only food to Huel Black is a bit of an odd transition. Now, if, let's say, you're replacing a meal, let's say you're like, hey, Mark, and I know a lot of people do this, for lunch, as opposed to me getting some food from work if I have a cubicle or a desk job or a 9 to 5 and going out and grabbing food and spending a lot of money, I just bring Huel to work. Or I know some people replace their breakfast with Huel Black or Huel. I think there's no issue there. But I will say, going from eating normal food to Huel Black, it's a bit of an odd transition, even though I've done it a bunch of times, whether I did it for this challenge or living in Austin or other times when I've traveled a lot. When I travel, and I'll talk about that in a second, Huel Black is my main go-to. I have it all the time. And it's crazy that the difference between, like, say, no Huel and one Huel serving a day isn't that much. But the difference between, like, say, one serving a day and 2 or 3 is gigantic, because then your body starts really having to get used to just Huel Black. So there is, I'd say, a transition period. Next thing, which is interesting, I wrote this down. I want to talk about alcohol. I've had a lot of people say, hey, Mark, when you live on Huel, when you're having mostly Huel, what is it like consuming alcohol? Because as you all know, if actually you go out drinking, you want to have a full stomach. You want to eat before consuming alcohol. I find that Huel actually does fill you up a good amount. And having Huel and, like, say, going out drinking is better than drinking on an empty stomach. But I will say, if I had to do like a kind of tier list, drinking on an empty stomach, definitely the worst. Better than that is drinking after having Huel or Huel Black. And then after that is having solid food. So I will say having real or solid food before consuming alcohol, I think is a lot better. But if you're, like, say, living on only Huel or only Huel Black, I do think there is some benefit to having it before consuming alcohol. And side note, I will say, there's something about Huel that's amazing for hangovers. I know it sounds odd, but sometimes when I wake up and I'm like, don't feel the best, the idea of, like, eating sometimes, if, like, say, I'm not really feeling well, seems almost like impossible. There's something about Huel that's quick and easy where I'm like, hey, put that powder in, like, a blender cup, shake it up, drink it, that's it. Cool little pro tip there, but in general, consuming alcohol with Huel, no issue. Although I will say, be careful when it comes to consuming alcohol, as you never know, maybe it hits you harder than other people. And on that note of going out and me being in Austin and everything, talking about traveling, Huel is genuinely the best for traveling. When I've lived on it and everything, it's super convenient. Like I said, it's powdered food. Think of it very similar to a protein shake, except it has a lot more macro and micronutrients. Like I said, you put a scoop in water, shake it up, chug it, that's it. All you really need is access to water, and I do suggest have a good blender bottle. You can also use a blender too. I feel like if you put it in a regular cup and stir it with a spoon, it doesn't really work as well. I mean, you can do it, but you're way better off having, like, an actual blender bottle. And I use it all the time. Like I said, when I travel and I do road trips and I do van life, I have Huel with me. If, let's say, I'm going and I'm flying out somewhere, right? I bring it to the airport. I can make it right in the airport, as opposed to spending $15 for, like, a low-key gas station like sandwich. Huel is amazing for that. Although I will say, quick side note, TSA always searches me when I have Huel. If you are planning on flying or traveling with Huel, don't be that alarmed if, like, say, they have to search you. They do it pretty much all the time. Going to the bathroom, might as well talk about this. This has been probably one of the biggest questions. You go normally. I'm not going to go into detail. I guess everything's normal. Yeah, nutrition. I love the nutrition of Huel, right? And when it comes to Huel Black, I do know when it comes to doing a challenge like this, there is a bit of an asterisk on that. But when it comes to the nutrition, I love it. You have 400 calories per serving and 40 grams of protein. For me, especially being big into fitness and health, and especially because right now in this dry January, I am bulking up and I'm putting on more muscle, which I think kind of caused an issue with Huel. Typically, Huel is amazing. If, like, say, you're traveling, like, shoot, I need a quick shake, and you are trying to bulk up, or you're trying to lose weight, which I'll talk about in a second, Huel is perfect for that, right? I mean, 400 calories in one shake. So for me, typically, when doing this challenge, I had 5 Huel shakes a day. One before I worked out, one after, one a few hours after that, and then so on throughout the day. So I was having about 2,000 calories a day and 200 grams of protein a day. In addition, I was drinking a lot of water, right, and having, of course, Huel Daily Greens, but that was it. I love Huel. Like I said, I have no affiliation with the company. Might as well say that. This is not sponsored by them. If anything, I do not think they'd want to endorse a video like this, being like, oh, I'm going to have only Huel for an entire month. And on that note, in terms of bulking up, building muscle, let's talk about the opposite, losing weight. I've gotten this question a lot, especially because I've done so many videos about Huel. And if anything, I think this is the biggest topic regarding Huel. Can you lose weight having Huel? I want to stress, I'm not a licensed doctor, so of course, always consult a licensed professional. If you are considering using Huel for weight loss or whatever, hire a licensed nutritionist, right? I'm not a doctor, and I never pretend to be one in any of my videos. From my perspective, though, Huel can be amazing for weight loss. I do want to say, though, you are still consuming calories. I think a lot of people have this mindset where they're like, oh, it's liquid, so I'm not going to be gaining as many calories as opposed to having actual food. Not the case. You are still consuming those calories. With that being said though, the best thing for me that I love about Huel is the convenience. And pairing that with weight loss. Let's say if you're driving back from work, you're tired, you're exhausted, you had a long day, you see those golden M arches of McDonald's way in the distance, and you're like, okay, fine, right? The thing with Huel is because you know it's so convenient, I think that's the biggest mental shift. It's not like you have to go out of your way to buy more healthy stuff, come home, etc., etc. You know, there is something that's very convenient about it, which makes it a lot easier for weight loss. In addition, I think the biggest thing with Huel is replacing, as opposed to, let's say, you replacing your lunch, which has, let's say, a bunch of bad stuff in it. If, let's say, it's junk food or fast food or whatever, you have Huel. I think Huel can be excellent for weight loss, being honest. But of course, like I said, I'm not a doctor and I never pretend to be one. And on that note of replacing, you may think, well, Huel must be cheap, right? Like if I'm replacing a meal with Huel, is it cheap? Technically. No, I could go really in depth about this point, about the price of Huel, because this is a bit unfortunate. Living on Huel for this month, if let's say I was going to live on Huel for an entire month, Huel Black, being more specific, guess how much money I would spend if I was having 5 Huel shakes a day? I'll give you a second. I would play the Jeopardy music, but it would get copyrighted on YouTube. But I'll give you a second. Here's the exact amount, I did the math out, of how much money I would spend on Huel Black if I was having 5 Huel shakes a day for an entire month. $483 roughly. $483. Now here's the thing about Huel that gets really kind of annoying, and I do stress the word annoying. Because of inflation and everything, the price of Huel has gone up. One bag of Huel Black is $53, and one bag has 17 servings. I don't like it, gotta be honest. You know, I love Huel, but I'm always very transparent as well in my videos. I hate it when Huel says, oh, it's only this much. But then you look and you're like, oh, well, it's only that much if I do the subscribe and save option. When you click one-time purchase, the price jumps up. I hate it when companies do this. So one bag of Huel Black, at least at the time of this video, is $53 and it has 17 servings. If you do the math out, you're spending roughly about $3.12 roughly per meal. Now, if you think about it, 400 calories, 40 grams of protein, a lot more macronutrients for $3.12. I mean, that is way cheaper than, like, say, if you get 2 McDoubles and fries at McDonald's, which, as a side note, McDonald's has gotten pretty expensive. Like, I know it sounds weird to say, but I got actually that exact order. I was traveling one time. I didn't have Huel on me, unfortunately. No Huel on me. And I was like, all right, I'm starving. I need something in my stomach. I got 2 McDoubles, a fries, and I think it was like a medium iced coffee. And it came to almost like $10 or $11. And I'm like, what the? I thought this used to be like $1 per McDouble, $1 value fry, $1 for the iced coffee, maybe $5 maximum. No, it's like 10 or $11. I'm like, what the? But anyway, going back to Huel, as you can imagine, if you're substituting meals, $3.12 for a meal is a lot cheaper than going out and buying food. So in that regard, yeah, Huel can be cheaper. But when you really factor in, let's say you buying the food and making it, like say at your house, if let's say you bring a lunch to work, for example, or you make your own breakfast or whatever, it is substantially cheaper having normal food. That's the way I look at Huel, as I look at Huel as a really good tool for me when I'm traveling or I want to substitute it with something else. In addition, I also have Huel almost every day as a post-workout shake. So I'll say that as a side note, but if you think about it, like I said, when doing the math out for this month, at $3.12 per meal, 5 meals a day, and I was doing this in the month of January, so 31 days, I was going to be spending about $483. You could spend way less than half of that and get normal food and eat pretty much fine. One thing I do want to say though about Huel, which is a huge kind of advantage of Huel, I will say. I know a lot of people have commented this, and I think this is the reason why a lot of entrepreneurs have gotten obsessed with Huel, business owners, actually a lot of gamers have actually gotten into Huel, and that is the convenience and time aspect. The average person spends 2 hours a day on food logistics. I mean, if you think about it, I know it sounds weird. Let's say you want to make a meal at home and you have no food. I mean, I know it sounds weird to bring all this up because we're so used to it, but think about it. You have to get ready, get in your car, drive to the store, walk around the store, and get everything that you need. Get in line, pay for everything, come home, put everything away, get out the utensils and elements you need to make that meal. Maybe preheat your oven or turn on the stove. You get everything ready, cook the food, eat the food, wash your dishes, and then put them away. We're so used to this because it's kind of an ingrained part in our society, but when living on ONLY Huel Black, you realize how much more time you have. And I know I don't want to sound like a entrepreneurial bro when they do this kind of thing when they're like, so if you think about it, and again, I don't want to get like super like entrepreneurial like, but there is something to be said that you're saving so much more time by having Huel that you might be able to spend more time on other stuff that, yeah, maybe Huel overall is way more expensive if you look at the bigger picture. You're having more time to put into other stuff. There was something very nice about waking up. I never think about, did I have enough protein today? Did I have enough carbs? Should I have spinach today or not? What did I eat yesterday? What should I eat today? Did I buy enough groceries? All these little things that you don't realize are on the back of your head. Almost like, there's the only way I can word it, is that every person, whether you know it or not, has a low-key food stress in the back of your head. Even if you're not big into health and fitness and nutrition, where you're counting, let's say, your protein or whatever, there's all these little stressors that exist around food that you don't realize exist until you do something like living on ONLY Huel. And I gotta say, there was something very nice about that. I'm not gonna lie, I do kind of wish I could continue doing this challenge just because my perspective on food, it's gonna sound weird, was kind of peaceful. I know it sounds like a very odd word to use, but I didn't have to worry about anything regarding food. Let's say if you're only substituting one meal a day on Huel Black or Huel, it's pretty awesome. It's so nice and convenient, especially too, which is super underrated. Huel does not need to be refrigerated. It does not need to be microwaved. So let's say if you're a real estate agent, and I used to be a real estate agent in Boston, and let's say you're somebody who's constantly, let's say, showing apartments or houses or whatever, you don't really have access to a microwave or refrigerator. Yeah, maybe you do at the office, but if you're out and about all day, it's kind of tricky. And Huel, you just bring Huel, you find water, that's it. It is that easy. And with that being said now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the big topic of why I had to stop having Huel Black. Now, like I said in the beginning, the short answer was fitness related and hypertrophy related. Let's get into the longer answer and kind of the catalyst or the big reason why I did stop, and that is bulking up. Now, typically, I will say I have Huel Black, and it's amazing for bulking up. I've gotten a lot of questions about bulking up, putting on muscle, and weight gain. It is amazing for that, right? If, let's say, you need a quick shake, having a quick shake that's only $3.12, that's 400 calories, 40 grams of protein and everything, phenomenal. I love Huel Black. If anything, if you look at like a lot of mass gainers, you can see some mass gainers are like $50 for 7 servings. You're like, wait, $50 for 7 servings? That's $50 a week. That's insane. With Huel Black, $53 for 17 servings, a lot cheaper than a lot of mass gainers, and you still get a lot of really, really good macro and micronutrients. With that being said, though, I wasn't shocked that I had to stop. And what happened is I've been working out intensely. For this month, I'm pretty much doubling the intensity and difficulty of my workouts. Again, for this month, I'm really going all out. Want to start off the year in a really good point. And when I compare my workouts now to back in the day, there's a couple things I realized. One, my workouts now are so much more brutal than they were back in the day. I feel like I look back at like 5 or 7 years ago and I'm like, wow, I thought that was a workout. And who knows, maybe in 5 or 7 years from now, I look back what I'm doing today and I'm like, I thought that was a workout, right? That's part of working out, that your workouts get harder, also referred to as progressive overload. So I think that although Huel Black is amazing for bulking up and weight gain and pairing that with fitness and doing my workouts, I don't think in general, it's gonna sound kind of weird, it could keep up with the intensity of my workouts. Back in the day when I lived on ONLY Huel, I think it was a lot easier because my workouts weren't as difficult. The second thing is putting on muscle. Back in the day, I didn't really care about bulking up per se. I really wasn't big into weightlifting. I was doing a lot of parkour and calisthenics, which I still do now. But back in the day, I would work out, and if I happened to build muscle, cool. I wasn't really thinking about building muscle in particular. I really wasn't focusing on lifting weights and hypertrophy. Now, I am, because I've noticed when I do bulk up, when I put on muscle, when I focus on hypertrophy, when I do weightlifting, I get better at parkour. My flips get higher. I can perform better at calisthenics, etc., etc. I think that's the main reason why that I just noticed, you know what? I'm just not feeling right. Like there was one night I remember, and this was the big kind of catalyst. I had 5 Huel shakes, 2,000 calories, 200 grams of protein, and I literally felt like I hadn't ate all day. And the weird thing is, I do feel very full when I have a Huel shake. I feel pretty stuffed, right? Like there's almost this mini food coma, I'll call it like a Huel coma, that after having Huel, I'm like, oh, I'm stuffed. I can't have any more Huel, I'm stuffed. But I didn't have that as much when living on ONLY Huel Black. And like I said, one, my workouts are way harder than they used to be when I did that challenge a long time ago. And two, I'm now really focusing on hypertrophy and muscle building. And my friend's uncle is a former bodybuilder. And I remember he said, sounds very simple, but it's, obviously incredible advice. He said, look, that muscle that you're building has to come from somewhere. And being honest, like 75 to 80%, maybe even 90% of building muscle and putting on mass and everything is eating. eating a lot of food. I remember I did Jack January last year where I tried to see how many pounds of muscle I could put on an entire month. I did get hurt, but in general, I put on 4.6 pounds of muscle in 23 days, which is pretty crazy, right? Pretty crazy. And to be honest, 90% of that month was me just eating an obnoxious amount of food. And what's weird though with Huel Black is this is something I didn't expect. I'm gonna be honest, I did not expect that I'd have this reaction to Huel Black. I thought I'd have 5 shakes a day, I'd be good. Maybe I'll have a 6th one, which I've never done, by the way. I've never had over 5 shakes, but it got to a point where I was like, okay, you know what? Something just feels off. I've been into fitness all my life, and I could just tell, I was like, you know what? Something just feels off. I feel like, although I'm getting a good amount of protein, 200 grams a day, it's just not, something's not adding up, so to speak. It's just not enough. And I had to make the decision at a certain point where I was just listening to my body, and like I said, I was starving. Like my stomach hurt as if I hadn't eaten all day. And I was like, okay, I have to make a judgment call. Either A, I stop living on only Huel Black. I do a lot of Huel Black, but I also eat regular food along with it, which is what I do typically. Or B, I decrease the intensity of my workouts. And as you can imagine, I went with option A. I didn't want to stop working out as hard as I was. I've been training a lot. My goal for this year, I did a video talking about my 2024 goals. One, when it comes to fitness, is to do 1,000 push-ups in a single set. And 2 is to do 25 pull-ups in a single set. Those are some of my goals. But my workouts, like I said, have gotten significantly more difficult. For example, yesterday's workout, I did 60 push-ups in a single set, followed by 10 tricep pull-downs at 80 pounds, and I repeated that 10 times. So my total workout was 600 push-ups and 300 tricep pull-downs at 80 pounds. In addition, I did them on my knees because I find it's easier to get full extension, just doing it when it comes to being on my knees as opposed to standing. Then I did a 15-minute sauna at 180 degrees Fahrenheit, and I did 5 rounds of push-ups on the bench. Starting at 15, I did 15, 15, 15, 20, and then 25. So that workout yesterday was brutal, right? Absolutely brutal. And today I'm doing, actually once I'm done filming this video, I'm gonna go to the rock climbing gym and I'm gonna do a pull-up experiment along with biceps and planche holds. So every day my workouts are brutal, absolutely brutal. When I kick off this year right, and I hate to say it kind of stinks, but I realized, you know what? Huel Black's just not keeping up. I don't want to stress, I'm not trying to bash Huel here. I'm really not. Like, as everyone knows, I love Huel. I genuinely love Huel. Probably one of my most purchased products, maybe ever. I'd have to think about this, but I buy Huel all the time. And I'm pretty much stocked with Huel right now. So don't get me wrong. All that Huel Black I bought for this month, I'm still probably going to have maybe 2 to 3 Huel shakes a day. And one thing I do want to stress is that overall, I mean, Huel is great for bulking up and building muscle. And if you're trying to do that, I think it's great for that. What's kind of interesting when it comes to Huel and all these search queries that I see online is people are looking either to bulk up with it or put on weight, put on muscle, or lose weight with Huel, right? Kind of the interesting yin and yang in terms of like weight adjustment, so to speak. And Huel is actually perfect for both cases. However, I think what I learned by doing this, and I feel like there's only like a handful of people maybe considering this, or maybe I'm the only person considering it, is that if you're, let's say, looking to do your brutal workouts and put on muscle, you're focusing on hypertrophy and muscle growth, muscle size and everything, doing that and living on only Huel Black, I don't think is feasible. I have seen other videos, which is kind of interesting and kind of cool. I'm pretty sure I was the first person to ever do like a documented video about what it's like to live on only Huel way back when. I have seen other people on YouTube do these type of videos since then, and one of them, for example, was a rock climber. I think this is one of the most popular videos on YouTube about living on only Huel, and he had a phenomenal video about rock climbing and living on Huel. And by the way, I am getting, like I said, into rock climbing. One of my unique goals for this month is to get my first V3. I go to the Center 1 here in LA. I will be doing a dedicated video where I'm like, all right, today I'm gonna try over and over again, every V3 in the gym, try to get my first V3. In case you didn't know, when it comes to bouldering, they're ranked on a scale. V1, V2, the higher the number, the harder it is. I can do a V2, not done a V3 yet. But anyway, you know, that person talked about rock climbing and living on Huel. And I think that makes actually a lot of sense because rock climbers are, first off, stupidly strong. Like, you think you're strong when it comes to pull-ups and everything until you go to a rock climbing gym. It's ridiculous. But also, I've noticed a lot of rock climbers are not focused on hypertrophy, right? Not at all. So I think maybe doing rock climbing and doing only Huel makes a lot more sense. Back in the day, when I was mainly doing breakdancing, parkour, tricking, martial arts, some calisthenics here and there, but again, I really wasn't focused on weightlifting or building muscle, whatever. It makes sense, and living on only Huel was actually perfect. And if anything, I enjoyed it. And one thing I do want to say as a side note is, don't get me wrong, yes, although I loved it back in the day, there were a couple times where I was like, oh man, be nice to have some pizza right now, or some In-N-Out, right? I'm obsessed with In-N-Out. Favorite meal, by the way, 4x4 animal style and fries animal style. Although the fries at In-N-Out are kind of meh, the burgers are insane. Back in the day, it worked for me, right? Because of what I was doing. For that rock climber, it worked for him. And I think that's where the issue for this month really came about. Do I want to end this challenge? Or do I want to end doing these difficult workouts? And I will say, I'm kind of glad I did decide to end the challenge. Now I'm just going to do super healthy food. I'm not going to have junk food or fast food. So I'm still going to eat healthy. Don't get me wrong. But now, being honest, now that I'm eating regular food again, in addition to Huel Black, I've immediately noticed I can work out even harder than earlier this month. I have been putting on more muscle as well. I don't feel those crazy hunger pains like I used to, and that kind of wrenching stomach pain that I did before, even when I was having 2,000 calories and 200 grams of protein, still wasn't enough. And the weirdest thing, before I conclude this video, that I do want to say is it's weird that the difference between living on 90% Huel and 100% Huel is so big. And if anything, that actually shocked me more. I was pretty surprised, not gonna lie, that I had such severe hunger pains when already having 5 Huel shakes. Did not expect that. But I was even more shocked by the fact that the past couple times when I've lived in Austin for a month, I was living on 90% Huel. Multiple days, all I had was Huel Black. Never once had an issue. Never once had hunger pains or, I felt full all day. It even got to the point when I was in Austin, I'm like, well, I can only have 4 shakes a day because this Huel Black is so filling. So it's weird that, when I was in Austin and I was having, let's say, 90% Huel Black, no issues. Loved it. But the second I went from, let's say, 90% Huel Black to 100% is when all these issues arose. And I want to stress, it's not like I was in severe pain. It's not like I was going through this horrible experience. I want to stress, for the most part, it was actually pretty convenient. Like I said before, living on only Huel Black, but the hunger pains and the fact that I could tell my body just could not perform at the level that it usually does, just unfortunately made me realize, because I'm working out so intensely and I'm trying to put on a lot of muscle and muscle mass and hypertrophy, that living on only Huel Black just doesn't do it.